Shirin, it's great to be with you in this interview. Thanks for accepting it first.
Of course.
Let's start with this first question. What made you want to pursue architecture?
So when I was really young, I loved art and I would draw a lot and I would get a lot of appreciation for that. But at the same time, I would be really interested in physics. So again, it's the answer probably every student gives. But I think my dad, this one day, he was like, if you like both these fields, why don't you look into architecture? Maybe, that's going to be a good field for you. And I feel like ever since, my mind has just been put onto that, and I just knew that I had to do architecture. Even when I was applying to universities, I just applied to this specific degree. So it was just decided. Yeah.
Interesting. I'm going to go with my second question. How has your understanding of architecture evolved since you first started your journey?
Oh, it has changed a lot. I feel like when I started architecture for us, even back in my country, we used to see architecture as a very streamlined sort of a very more monotonous sort of a degree. But I feel like over time, you get to see the layers that architecture has, so many different arenas that it touches. I feel like that really develops over time. Yeah.
What is the most unexpected or surprising thing you've learned so far at GSAPP?
I think it's similar to what I answered before. The fact that architecture has so many layers, it touches upon so many fields, we change so many lives. I feel like normally when someone looks at architecture, we just maybe appreciate a facade or the plan of a building. But I feel like the sort of experiences that we generate, the sort of impact architecture can have on people, it's not just something that's very physical. I feel like GSAPP has, taught me that there's so much impact on the mental state that we can create through architecture. And I feel like that's just very inspiring for me because, you realize that you're not doing something that's just, you're not just making a mark on the world, you're actually changing lives through your built environment. So I feel like that's huge that I learned here actually. Yeah.
What are some of the major challenges you faced so far in your architecture career?
I think if I would want to answer this by connecting the sort of the idea of professional and academic, because I feel like there's a huge gap there. The biggest issue that I faced was when I started working after my undergrad. I saw this huge gap in the practical world and the academic world. I feel like we were focused so much on the concept and the development and the artist side of the field. When I got into the academic, into the professional field, I realized that there's barely a lot of people who care about the conceptual part. People care more about the functionality. So there's a huge gap between what we learn and then what we implement. So we really need to be prepared for that, I feel.
Great. What's the biggest lie you've been told about becoming an architect?
This might sound funny, but I was told that there's no way you can get through architecture school through if you don't do drugs or if you don't smoke, you can't get through architecture school. I feel like I'm in my master's degree, I've made it here, so you don't have to listen to that. You can do it without that.
Any other lies, maybe on the educational side? Not really.
Not that I can think of right now, but maybe I'm pretty sure there must have been a lot of lies, but I don't remember them now.
If you could bulldoze one famous building built by any architect, which one would it be?
Bulldoze. Ooh. So many, but the one that I have at the top of my head is the Selfridges building in Birmingham. It's like, I don't know what were the architects thinking. I don't want to offend anyone, but it looks like as if we're underwater and there's like a sea anemone around us. So it's a funny building. I would bulldoze that for sure.
If you could have designed one iconic building in a different way, what would you change?
I think the one building that's become really famous is called the Marina Sand Bay building. It's in Singapore. It's like these 3 very tall structures and then they have a cantilever on the top. As amazing as the idea may sound, I feel like maybe if I had approached it, I wouldn't make it so fragmented. I feel like the forms that support the cantilever on the top, I would have made it more connected to the general idea. It feels like 2 different blocks have been put together, so maybe a more connected sort of a fluid approach would be better because it's also with water, so maybe you want to understand the context first. So maybe that would have been a different approach.
What are your career plans after graduating from GSAPP?
Almost the same as any other person. I want to work here in New York for a few years, and then maybe I actually don't want to decide it too much for myself. I want to see how life takes me, but maybe start my own firm back in my country or maybe stay here and just work with another firm and maybe get promoted or something. I don't know. Let's see. But I want to work, of course, in the architectural side. Yeah.
So you don't see yourself coming back to your home country right away after GSAPP?
No, I think for a few years I would want to get experience here. I want to understand what, because I feel like in New York, they're advancing. They're doing much better than what people in my country are doing. There's this sort of a disconnect, which is fine. So I want to break that. I want to learn what's here and then maybe take it back and sort of break that disconnect that we see here. So maybe, yeah, I will go back eventually, but yeah.
Amazing. Do you see yourself opening your own design studio in a way after graduating from GSAPP, or you think you would wait a little bit?
I would wait a little bit because, again, as I said, there's a huge disconnect between the academic and the professional life. So I want to learn through some other person's firm first, and then when I gather enough knowledge, then maybe I'll move on to my own firm. But eventually, yes.
Any advices you would give to a high school student who would want to pursue architecture?
Yeah, of course. So I would want them to understand that architecture is a field, again, that affects so many different other professional practices. I want them to be prepared for that. I would want them to do a lot of research before they come into this, because they should be prepared for what they're getting into. A lot of people, they get overwhelmed when they come into architecture. So you really need to know what you're getting into, but also see this as a source where you can open up so many more avenues for yourself. So maybe that approach could really help them take a decision. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shirin. Thanks for this interview.
Thanks so much for having me. Thanks.